Welcome to another edition of Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Last week I potted up the Heuchera bananas that were in the greenhouse. One type of banana I forgot to get out and pot up, and that was the Ensete morellii bananas, which I kept in the loft space behind me. So I'm just going to go into the loft space in the side of this wall, and hopefully the bananas will be fine. And here's what's coming up in the rest of today's programme.
We'll be tidying up and potting up the Ensete morellii bananas. We'll be looking at one of the biggest plants you can grow in the garden. We'll be getting rid of an exotic looking plant that's now a pest. And we'll also be looking at this one-eyed monster.
So I've got the Ensete morellii bananas out of the loft, which was very cold this winter, but they're still alive, thankfully, these bananas. And I'm going to tidy them up, plant them up, put them in the greenhouse with all the Heucheras, and these will grow away strongly and be planted out later on in the year. So here are the Ensete morellii bananas. Now I've cleaned them up. You can see if I pick this one up, it's a lot lighter than it was when it went into the loft. A lot of the water's gone because it's dried out a lot. The important bit is this bit is not rotten, it's that's hard. This is all hard, it's not wet and sweaty. And then look at the top, you can see it's been growing a bit in the attic, so that's why it's gone all white, so that's alive. And they're all the same, even the tiny one down here and these two larger ones are all fine, nice and white at the bottom. Again, nice and hard all this. All the roots will form around this area. This bottom bit will sort of rot away and the roots will come from this area. And they, like the others, will grow really nicely in the garden. So hopefully yours are also growing or ready to be potted up and growing. I just think these have been dry now since November. So it's been 5 months since they've seen daylight and 5 months since I've had a drink, so I'll pot these up and put them in a little bit of damp compost and I'll water them in several days' time and I can see that they've started to root. Well, if you follow my Facebook posts, earlier this week I said that I'm gonna get a new plant on Sunday, which is today, and it's going to be one of the biggest plants you can grow. That plant is in this bag, and what this is a Gunnera, and this Gunnera is Gunnera manicata. And what a lot of people don't realise is when they get a Gunnera, they think it's a large, huge leaf Gunnera manicata that they see in photographs that grows in Cornwall, in lots of the gardens down there. But what they've actually got is a Gunnera tinctoria, and that is a Gunnera that I have in my garden. But in this bag is the real Gunnera manicata, the giant rhubarb. The leaves on this can grow up to 3 meters wide, so much wider than I can possibly put my arms apart. Grows taller than me, and you can actually stand under each leaf. It grows that big. Now the reason a lot of people think they're getting Gunnera manicata is because that's what they buy it as. But unfortunately most Gunnera manicata that you can buy in this country is actually Gunnera tinctoria, which is still a great plant. I have it growing around the pond area in the garden, and it does grow leaves over 1 meter wide, and it grows up to a couple of meters tall, but it's not the giant huge Gunnera manicata. So in this bag I've got that plant. So if we look inside the bag, we can see what the Gunnera looks like. It's basically some huge buds that are just ready to unfold their new leaves. I've got the rhizomes and the roots in there. So what I'm going to do with these is I'm going to pot them up in some compost for now, into a big large tub, and then when I'm ready I'm going to plant them out in the garden. And the area where I'm going to plant them out is near the pond where the tinctorias are. So if we look down here, you can see these are the Gunnera tinctorias ready to unfurl here, and then much bigger one with a rhizome. And you see this looks almost identical to the Manicarta that I've just got. What the real differences are obviously the main one being a huge size difference, and also the flowers, which do look different. And I'll put some pictures up of the flowers of both of them now so you can see the difference, and you can tell if yours is really a Gunnera Manicarta or a tinctoria. Because obviously you might think you've got a Manicarta and you grow your Gunnera. After a year or two you think, well, it's still not very big. That's what I did with mine. It's been in the ground a few years and it never got huge, and that's when I realised that it wasn't a Manicarta, but it was a tinctoria. So there are the differences. It's got different flowers and overall a huge different size. And also Manicarta is said to be a bit more tender, so you do need to protect it a little bit when it gets really cold by folding over the leaves, whereas this tinctoria doesn't need any protection at all and it seems to be fine. So let's get this Gunnera out of the plastic bag and into a nice pot of multi-purpose compost. I'll water that really well, and then in a few weeks time we'll plant that out in the garden when it's ready. Now I've got to say a big thank you to the person who gave me this. This is from Nick Wilson from the Jungle Garden in Leeds, who grows huge Gunneras in his garden, along with other selection of fantastic exotic and tropical plants, and he does open his garden each year for the NGS, so I'll put the details of his website on the link below so you can see, have a look at the fantastic pictures of his garden. So thank you Nick for this Gunnera, which hopefully will do well in my garden a little bit further south than Leeds. Right, let's get this potted up. Okay, so we've potted these Gunneras up now into this multi-purpose compost, and we're just going to give them a real big watering. We're going to put lots and lots of water because these like really wet ground. Not completely submerged, but they like it really boggy and wet. So we're going to give this a really good watering, get the roots touching all the soil. And it's in full sun now, so hopefully it'll establish quickly in this pot. And we'll give that another couple of watering cans and do the same with the other section behind. So previously we've talked about the bamboo and the other plants in this area that got blasted by the cold winds over winter, but it actually was pretty extreme, because if you look higher up, the conifers above, they've also been blasted and they've actually gone scorched, straw coloured up there as well. So all the conifers have been hit by the cold wind, which I've never seen before. I'm here standing in what was the sort of damp bed in this part of the garden, and as you can see I'm surrounded by one plant and one plant alone. That is Petasites, the variegated form of, which is like the native butter bear, but this is from Japan. And if you look all around me, it's everywhere. And what I did last year was, at the end of summer, I got 2 full wheelie bins and I completely filled both up with just these plants. With all the roots, I dug them all up. Because what they do is they spread by these runners. So if you look, let's look at this one here. You can see there's the leaves unfurling here, and they send out loads of roots. See that? You can see a little purple root in there. They're a runner, and they keep doing bit by bit by bit, and they spread all over the place. So although I spent ages filling 2 wheelie bins of all the roots of this plant, it's come back and it's covering an area about 4 metres by about 1.5 metres, and obviously it's not good if I want to plant other things in this area. So what I'm going to do is use some weed killer. This is Roundup ready to use gel, and I'm going to basically use it by squirting a bit on all the leaves. I'm not using the spray because I'm really close to the bamboo here, and just across I've got the palm tree there. I don't want the spray to damage those plants. And also there are a few plants down here, so if you look carefully down here, we've got a dormant Gunnera. I don't want to damage that either, so we're going to put some Roundup on all these leaves, and hopefully over the next few weeks it will kill them off back to the ground, and hopefully kill the roots as well. And I'll keep going and going to clear this area. I will keep a couple of plants, because what I'll do is I'll sink them in the ground in a container so they can't spread, because as you can see this is covered a far too bigger area for what I want in the garden, and it's been a bit of a weed and a bit of a thug. So as it's a bit showery today, I'm not going to use it today, this Roundup, but in the week when we get some really nice warm dry days, I'm going to apply the weed killer then, and hopefully, fingers crossed, come summer we'll have got rid of this plant in this area. So on last week's episode we sowed several lots of seeds, including the zinnias, and as you can see they've all germinated now, growing away strongly. And just behind them we've just got the first ricinus that are also germinating, and you can see there a few have germinated, so they don't take a long time, don't need soaking either like a lot of people do. As you can see, they germinate within a week. So great to see, and hopefully we'll carry on with more seeds being germinating. Now next week, if the weather looks okay, I'll be planting out the aeoniums. But as you can see, this Aeonium cyclops, has started to flower, and it has lots and lots of yellow daisy-like flowers. And because each rosette is monocarpic, this rosette will die off. But luckily, around the base there are new little aeoniums forming, and these can be separated and potted up or planted straight out in the garden to get lots and lots of new aeoniums for this season. And as you can see behind, there are loads of other aeoniums that we dug up last year. They've just been left in trays or just on the greenhouse floor, and they've not really been watered. They've had a bit of water splashed down on them when I've watered the plants on the shelf above, but apart from that they've been pretty dry. And these have survived. They don't look brilliant at this time of year because they're pretty desiccated, but once they're planted out, give it 2 or 3 weeks and they'll plump up and start growing away. So that's a job for next week. Now one plant that's looking fresh and very colourful in the garden, even at this time of year, is this Heuchera. This is a beautiful purple and silver leaved Heuchera, and I can't remember the actual variety, but there's so many great Heucheras, and they can be used obviously in cottage gardens, but they can be used in the exotic garden as well to give some year-round interest. But this is evergreen, and I've got several of these in the garden, and they just sort of perk up the borders, especially in winter and spring when everything else is pretty much dormant. And this is the plant of the week. To watch out if you're buying these, because sometimes you get a vine weevil in the pots and they like to attack these a lot. So look out for the grubs and the leaves that have been cut, the little edge of that V-shapes into the leaves. But this one was a healthy plant when I planted it out last spring. It's grown well, and it'll continue and flower later on in the year, but it's the leaves that I'm more interested in. So that's Heuchera. Shade or sun? Well, today's been a day of sunshine and showers, and the last week or so it's actually been really cold, pretty miserable, but thankfully the week ahead looks much warmer, almost summer-like by midweek. We're going to see, even in Yorkshire, 20 degrees plus. I get 22 degrees by Wednesday, Thursday, and that should continue right through to next weekend. So this week ahead is a fantastic week for actually the plants waking up fully, because they're going to get lots of nice warm sunshine. You should see the Gunneras opening their first leaves, the bamboos starting to shoot, and the bananas growing as well. And it'll give us lots of nice time to get out in the garden, finish off clearing up all the rubbish, and carry on planting plants out as well. So really looking forward to the weather this week, and hopefully wherever you are watching this, you have a fantastic weather week as well, and you can spend lots of time in the garden. Thanks for watching Yorkshire Kris Weekly. Join me next week where I may be planting out the aeoniums subject to the weather. Join me then.